Hi, and welcome back to another week of What's for Dinner. My name is Crystal, and in today's video, I'm going to share 5 different dinner ideas. Hopefully, this video gives you some inspiration or just gets you through the week with these What's for Dinners. Of course, any video, recipe, or ingredients, as always, will be down in the description, so don't forget to check that out. If you guys want to see more What's for Dinner, I do have a playlist with over 60 What's for Dinner videos, and that will be in the description as well. So let's get started with this week, What's for Dinner. So starting off with pizza, we call this pizza made with love. I had my niece over and she was so excited to make the pizza dough with me. My kids love having pizza. They request at least every other week. As long as I have all the ingredients and time, I definitely enjoy making it. It's pretty fun and also fun for kids to play with, and they get so excited like she did. She was so excited to make this pizza dough and make her own little pizza. So this is also, besides a dinner idea, a really fun activity for kids and even adults if you like playing with Play-Doh, something like that. That's the consistency of this dough, and it's just so much fun, to be honest. And you can make any kind of pizza that you want. You can make personal, you can make big ones. You can also make breadsticks. This recipe to make this dough, I will put it down in the description, the video. I do have a video with step by step and all the ingredients, so if you are interested, go ahead and check that out. But like I said, we do eat this quite often because my kids love it. And if I don't have garlic bread, this also makes great for garlic bread if I don't have like the ready kind. So here we were just forming the dough. She was helping me pull them apart, and I was forming the dough balls. Since I double my recipe in this video, you can either make a large pizza or you can make 4 personal ones. You can make breadsticks. This dough also freezes really great. So sometimes I will make 3 portion sizes and freeze those individually, and then I just set them out on my counter and let them defrost. And she was so excited to make her own little pizza. She got her little rolling pin and she was so good at it, a little professional. These kids blow me away when they were making their pizza. Even my daughter, when she makes her own, they make them so cute. And the reason that I call this pizza made with love is that when we were forming the dough, and this happens quite often, it started forming into a heart. So I told her, well, if you just roll it that way, it'll start forming into a heart. And she was just so excited because it was a cute little heart. And I told her it was because it's made with love. And funny story is that the following day when she came over, we made scrambled eggs. And if I can, I'll post a picture right here. The eggs somehow formed into a heart, like a little piece. It was so cute. And I told her, oh, it's good, it's made with love. So here I'm just poking some holes. This helps to prevent from the pizza crust not bubbling up and puffing up. I learned that from experience, so just a few little holes. And then now she's adding her sauces. This is so much fun where the kids get interactive and they get to help you with the dinner. But again, like, there's adults who like to do this too. I'm one of those. And then she just wanted a cheese pizza, so we went very simple. Added the pizza sauce, and then we also added the shredded cheese, and they were also helping themselves to eat some of the cheese. I placed it in the oven for 400 degrees for about 14 minutes. Thank you so much, Madison, for helping me with this pizza. Your tia loves you. This is her pizza. It's so cute, but you can definitely add different toppings. You can do, for example, on this day, I added pineapple and bacon, and that's really good. And same thing, 400 degrees for 14 minutes. You can make it any shape that you want. But this was dinner on this day. We had pizza made with love. On this day, we had Philly cheesesteaks with French fries. And here I'm going to start making the bread. I'm going to start by adding warm water and then 2 tablespoons of honey, and I'm just going to mix that in so it completely dissolves, and just mix that into warm to hot water. It's a certain temperature that I used, and then I'm just checking to make sure it's still warm. And then now I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of instant yeast. I like using the instant yeast because I don't have to wait for it to bloom. It's going to be time to get some more because I do make quite often different kinds of bread and pizza dough. And then I'm adding an egg and also some butter. The measurements will be in the description, so go ahead and check that out if you want the actual recipe, or you can just buy subs as well. And then I'm going to be adding 3 cups of all-purpose flour. You can either use flour or you can use bread flour. So it's going to be up to preference or what you have on hand. And then you can either mix the egg and the butter in a separate bowl. I didn't want to. I just put everything and it worked just fine. And here I'm going to knead for about 10 minutes. You can either do this by hand or you can do this in a stand mixer, and that will work as well. Then after I kneaded it and it's pretty soft, if it's too sticky, I always add a little bit of flour. And then once I get it to the consistency that I like, now that it's nice and soft, I add a little bit of oil to my bowl, and then I'm going to set the dough back. I'm going to cover it with a cloth, and then I'm going to let this rise between 1 to 2 hours. I did about an hour and a half, punched out all the air now that it's double in size. And then I'm going to start forming my bread. So these breads, the portions are about 5, but I wanted 6 just so that we can have enough for the second day. If I'm going to go through all this work to make the bread from scratch, at least give me a day off the next day and I can have leftovers for the next day, which we did. So then here I am trying to cut them into 6. Definitely the portions would be better 5 because we did have some that were smaller, some that were bigger. But this was the first time that I made a sub, so I'm still learning. They're not as pretty and cute, but were they delicious? Oh yes, the house smelled amazing of bread. So here I'm just flattening it out, and then I'm gonna use some flour just so it doesn't stick to my wooding board, my cutting board, I mean, wooding board, hello, making up words. And then I'm going to fold in half and then pinch them together, just kind of like fold them in together, and then the sides of it as well, and do the other side. And then I'm going to just roll them and try to make them as pretty as I can, which some did and some didn't, but it's okay. They were edible and they were delicious. And then I'm going to set it to the side and continue rolling them. I did peel the potatoes and cut them up and just put them on the side with water, and then I just baked them in the oven. Cut them up and put some cooking spray, 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. And then I let the dough sit for another hour on a cooking pan, cover it again. And then I'm going to make some little slits on them, get some air there. And then you can either do an egg wash or melted butter. I've done melted butter so far and it tastes pretty good. I know an egg wash will give it like a really nice glossy look to it, but for now butter works. I already had the butter melted, so it just worked out. So just brushing that, and then I'm gonna put it in the oven. I have the oven at 350 degrees between 20 to 30 minutes. And then when I think of a Philly cheesesteak, I think of onions and peppers. I love onions and peppers, so I started by adding some oil to my pan, and then I had some frozen bell peppers and onions. Since bell peppers go bad pretty quick, if I'm not going to use them up, I just chop them up, put them in a freezer bag in my freezer, and once they were all nice and grilled, I let them go nice and slow. I just put a little bit of salt and that's it. And I try to make sure everything came out at the same time. So when I knew I had like the last 10 minutes, I cooked up the steaks. This package, I bought it at Aldi, and then I just seasoned it the same way that I season any kind of beef. I use garlic powder. I also use a little bit of seasoned salt, and then I also use some black pepper as well as some fresh minced garlic, and just it cooks up so quick. It's so thin. I'm pretty sure it would be better if I were to buy like a ribeye steak and like cut it super thin. This was pretty good though still, but I'm just saying ribeye meat's pretty good. And then there's the minced garlic that I'm adding, and like pretty much in like 10 minutes this was already done. And I just had it to the side, cooking all this meat up. And this portion fed us for 2 days. It was plenty of meat. And now that it's all cooked, we're gonna assemble our Philly cheesesteaks. And I know so many people use different cheeses. This is what our little breads look like. Some were looking professional, some were looking questionable, but again, they were all delicious. So then I'm going to cut one of the breads in half. I'm going to add the meat, and then I'm going to add some peppers and onions. And then I'm going to use cheese of choice. When I think of a Philly cheesesteak, I think provolone. That's the cheese that I like. So on a Philly cheesesteak, so that's what I add. But I know many other people use different stuff. Um, Someone else had it with mozzarella, and then I tried it like that the next day, and it was actually really good with mozzarella as well. But I think just provolone is such a classic. If you eat Philly cheesesteaks and you like them, and just for fun, if you want to, what kind of cheese do you add? I'm just curious, just for funsies. What kind of cheese do you add? So I added half of a provolone. That was plenty for me. This was actually my sub. And it was a lot. Like, it was a lot. With the French fries, this is what we had for dinner. This was so good and so simple. Like, just an easy meal besides making the dough. But even then, it was still pretty good and not too complicated. That was dinner on this day. On this day, I made chicken noodle soup. I know what you're thinking. It's summertime. Why am I making that? Wasn't feeling good, and then I remembered I had chicken breast in my fridge that I needed to use up. So what you first saw in the other pan was I made my girls chicken Alfredo, chicken fettuccine Alfredo. So that was Alfredo sauce. And here I am making the chicken noodle. I added some butter. My pan was a little too hot, so I ended up making some brown butter, which ended up being really good. So next time I make chicken noodle, I will be using brown butter. It's so good and it gives it a just great flavor. So I have onion and celery that I had in my fridge that also needed to use up. The celery was in my fridge. And then I also added some minced garlic, some salt, and then I didn't have the egg classic noodle. I had bow tie pasta and it worked for me. So I toasted that up just a bit to give it some flavor too. This was really good. And then that's the brown butter. You would think I'm adding coffee or like chocolate, but no, I smelled it and it just smells so good. It just gives it tons of flavor. So note to self, going to be using brown butter like I said. And then I had some end pieces in my freezer of onion, so I want to add that just to give that some flavor. Pretty much was cleaning up my fridge and my freezer while not feeling good. And then I didn't have fresh carrots, but I had canned carrots. And then here I'm just adding some fresh herbs, some thyme, some rosemary, and also some bay leaves. I'm gonna add in there just to give really good flavor. And then I'm gonna add hot water. I had a chicken bone in my freezer, so that's gonna give it lots of flavor to our soup. And then I'm gonna add some chicken bouillon and I'm gonna let this cook for about 2 hours on medium. And then now that it's fully cooked, I shredded that chicken, but I also made chicken on the side, the chicken breast that needed to cook. I cooked them just in the air fryer and then chopped them up. I added a little bit of heavy whipping cream, just like a teaspoon to it, and it gave it such a good flavor to the chicken noodle soup. Shredded up the little bone that I had and cut up the chicken. I used 2 breasts for the fettuccine alfredo that the girls had, and then I added the rest to the chicken noodle soup. I ate half of this and the other half I froze. I had it for a few days, and this was what my bowl was like. I had this for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I had a little cold, and then I had freezer breadsticks. I didn't feel like making any from scratch, and that was dinner on this day. It was so good, even though it was like summer. This was the only thing I felt like eating. I had like a 2-day summer cold, and this definitely healed my spirits. So on this day, we went to the pool. We go to the pool quite often, and we just made very simple. This is real life. We had sandwiches. Yes, you can have sandwiches for dinner. So we had a Caesar salad. I just put everything in like little containers and baggies, and then ice packs. We had a turkey sandwich, and of course you got to put a little chips in there. And then we also had watermelon. Like, mama was packed and loaded and ready to go. On this day, we had enfrijoladas with red rice, and then I'm making a salsa. I'm popping a tomato, garlic, and some chile de árbol in my air fryer and just letting them roast up. This is the first time that I've roasted garlic. I never do that. I usually add it raw, but my mother-in-law called me and told me, hey, I made salsa and I roasted my garlic. And I was like, oh, it's a good idea. I'm gonna do that too, and it actually gave it pretty good flavor. I usually use different kind of chiles, like a chile serrano, but I didn't have any. I did not have any. So we use chile de árbol. I always have those. And I should have done 3, but I did 6 just to make sure it was spicy. But mincing that, and that is my youngest helping me make the salsa molcajete. My oldest already knows how to make it, and now I'm teaching her how to make it. And then here I'm just, I did this part because this is hot. And then it comes out chunky, the salsa molcajete, that's how it's supposed to be. But I added water because it was just too hot for that one little tomato. And then here I'm going to be not frying, but just softening up the tortillas. Just soften them up here, flipping them. This is real time. This isn't sped up because we're going to be layering the enfrijoladas. This is one of like my childhood dinners that I really like, and I hadn't had in a long time. And at first I thought maybe this was just something that my mom made, but no, other people eat this. So I had some pinto beans in my freezer, froze them. I mean, I took them out from the freezer. I blended them, just pulsed them. And then I had a little bit of lard, and then I'm just making refried beans. Any playlist to cook beans, refried beans, I'll put it down in the description. But pretty much just warming them up because these beans need to be creamier. And then I dip my corn tortilla in there, the softened one, and then we're just gonna layer. You can either roll these in like taquitos, or you can fold them in half like a taco, but this is the way my mom served it when I was little. And that's what I really wanted to make. I just wanted to make them how my mom used to make them, and this is how she used to make them. With the corn tortilla with the beans, and then the cheese, and then you would add another layer of the corn tortillas. But now that I'm an adult, I was like, maybe a little bit of other topping sounds good. And I just added random things. So I added some thin sliced onions, sound good to me. So I added a few of those. And then I had the salsa. And then I also had some sour cream that I thinned out just a little bit of milk. And just kind of drizzled it on top. If you have like a Mexican crema or a crema Oaxaca, those would be, oof, so good. But I didn't, so I just used with what I have. You can definitely add lettuce if you want, but I didn't want to add lettuce. I just wanted it like this. And then I believe I had like an avocado that was going bad, and I added a little bit of that. I also had queso cotija, which is like similar to Parmesan cheese, and that gave it really good flavor. I made rice on the side, and this is what we had for dinner, enfrijoladas with red rice. I want to say thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's What's for Dinner, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!